Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like. We appreciate that.
Podcast below in the description. Check that out as well.
And our friends at wineaccess.com/ham. 20% off, John.
Send a gift right now. wineaccess.com/ham. 20% off.
Vic Tafur wrote in The Athletic this. I will read to you now what Vic Tafur wrote in The Athletic. After watching minicamp practices Tuesday and Wednesday and talking to people in the Raiders building, Damon Arnette has become almost an afterthought. The Raiders signed veteran Casey Hayward in May and all but handed him Arnette's starting job opposite Trayvon Mullen. There was some speculation that one might move the slot corner, but neither has practiced there yet. That's bad. That's bad.
Disaster.
This is a player that...
They drafted him where?
First round.
First round. What, 4 years ago?
No, John. Last year. I mean, 2020.
Yeah. So he's a rookie. He's coming off his rookie
season. Coming off his rookie year, yeah. Coming off his rookie year. Played 9 games that year.
Yeah.
Actually, you and I
I respect him, actually.
You and I were actually kind of complimentary.
Yeah, I thought he was tough. Here's the thing, Guy. When they hired John Gruden, whether it was his fault or not, they chose a direction financially with getting rid of Khalil Mack and with Amari Cooper. In really what? Was that a month-and-a-half stretch, right? Because Khalil got traded right before week 1, and Amari didn't make it to the trade deadline, so that's probably within no more than 2 months, right? Khalil goes September 1st, give or take. Amari goes mid to late October. And when you did that, you got 3 first-round picks. But you also got trading Khalil was your best player, so you're immediately shittier, and then trading Amari halfway through makes you shittier too, so you end up 4th overall. Like, you are a worse football team because of pressing the reset button, right?
If it was the NBA, we'd call that tanking.
Yeah, and you tanked. So you not only ended up with the multiple first-round picks, right? That year it was Josh Jacobs, really good pick. Jonathan Abram, let's face it, has been a disastrous pick. And Cleveland Farrell, which, let's face it, if anything is like, I guess a C, but when you factor in he was the 4th overall pick, it's a disaster too. When the next player that went after him, when you don't have any linebackers, I don't know, is Devin White, team captain of the Super Bowl champs on defense. He's fucking awesome. So it didn't make any sense when you did that. And then another second or first round pick that you had the following year was on Damon Arnette. So you have a safety who can't really play in this league, can't cover. Your running back's a really good player. But the problem is running back is the easiest position by far to replace consistently over and over in the NFL. And then you have drafted a corner who is already out of the rotation. Like, you made these huge moves, and then they give you a return on investment eventually. Now, the thing, it's not like they just hand you, in this exercise, it gives you a pick. And to miss on those picks is pretty crippling.
The flaw I think that people make and made when they assess the Raiders' picks, and I shouldn't.
It happens in any sport with the picks. I think
What's
it's just
that?
what you're
that
about
you miss
to say.
Picks.
I just think the flaw in just the picks.
So I think it's the same mistake that people made about Mac Jones before the draft, and Mac Jones may turn out to be great, but this idea that some pick is more high floor than another is true, but that's not value when you do it in the first round, right? So the idea that, all right, look, we think he's probably not worth the 4th overall pick, but we think his floor is really high. His ceiling's not very high, but his floor is really high. We're getting a solid start. Okay, Damon Arnette. You don't think he's an elite corner? Fine. But we didn't like any other corners. We needed a corner. His ceiling's not that high, but trust us, his floor is going to be high, right? But it doesn't work like that. It consistently does not work like that, especially in the first round. So now here's the thing. No one,
because you're already at a 50-50 proposition in the first round that the guy's just going to be a decent player or not, right?
Solid players are like generally high ceiling, because just to be a starter, that's a high ceiling. In the first round, that's a lot. If that's kind of your minimum, like you got to be a starter, that'll be solid. Like, well, yeah, it's hard to be a starter. Now, when they here's the thing: when they drafted these guys, when they drafted Arnette, when they drafted Farrell, the reaction was. When they drafted Abram, the reaction was, wow, really? I think if we look back at the Mahomes... You
could even go this year with Leatherwood.
With Leatherwood, that was the reaction.
Shocker.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Ruggs was one that you went high ceiling. Great. But, like, if we go back to the Mahomes draft, obviously drafting Mitchell Trubisky over Mahomes and Deshaun Watson was crazy. At the time of the draft, some people didn't think Mitchell Trubisky was worth that level of draft pick. But most people, generally speaking, did not think that he was a reach relative to the other quarterbacks that were drafted after him. That's not been the case with the Raiders. Like, it's been repeated consensus that they have reached for players that are not. It'd be one thing if you reached for what was the name? The guy out of Miami this year, Jalen Phillips, the defensive end, who's like, you know, might hate football, but could be a superstar. Okay, right. But Ruggs, Arnette, Lynn Bowden Jr. is on another team. Brian Edwards, I think could be good, John, but didn't play a lot. I don't. Year two, and he's not on the field.
Well, you could argue here, if you want to truly look at the draft just like a numbers economic exercise, go back to what you said. The flaw in viewing things is high floor, because ultimately I think they kind of view Josh Jacobs like that as well. Now he's just been good. You start off immediately the proposition of a first-round pick, especially like once you get past the top 15, right? So the quote-unquote 50-50 in the first round, I bet in the top 15 that percentage is probably closer to 70-30, and then in the 20s it's probably closer to 40-60, right? So your odds when you draft any given player are pretty risky. Then you guys not knowing the value of the player, like, hey, no one in the league was taking this guy here. No one. So you're taking a guy at a lower value in a proposition that's 50-50 or 40-60 or 60-40. So you're limiting your odds. Like one big economic exercise, their odds keep going down the way they do fucking everything. Everything. Like Tampa when they took Devin White. That was equally as risky as Cleveland Farrell, right? College kids, you don't know if they're going to be good or not because, I don't know, it's the draft. No one knows. But Devin White was viewed like pick 3 to 7. Like that was where the NFL viewed his talent. Like as good of a linebacker prospect you can just get. And then they hit on it, but it's like they had the value right. They took the right guy, and then they'll see, right? That's part of the deal. And the Raiders kind of do the opposite. Like, I know this is not where we should take him, but we believe. Well, you're like, gets kind of Billy Beanish. Like your guts are way off. And then just the basic information that is just the market value that is part of talking to a bunch of people and just having a feel for drafts, they have no feel for. None. And what's weird, and we'll get into Mayock and Gruden here in a second, is we have evidence, hard evidence for a decade of like Mike Mayock couple kind of curveballs, but for the most part, it's like, God, this guy knows what he's talking about. We have contrary evidence to fucking Gruden on television. Take Johnny Manziel doing all this stuff. He consistently showed us, like, I don't really know if John knows what he's talking about when it comes to the draft. And John is the grand poobah. He answers, he's killing himself while the players are picking. And a lot of them, we're talking defensive players.
I know.
Like their one hit was the running back. Well, yeah, their offense can be fine.
Colton Miller was a hit.
Offense again, yeah. The defensive guys should be core pieces, like a corner, a safety, and a defensive lineman. I think ideally, if I told any team you had 3 picks, 1-4, 1-17, or whatever Arnette was, and Abram was like 27. So you have the 3 picks. I give you an end, a defensive end, a hybrid safety type, and just a starting corner. You're like, well, I feel confident that I can hit on 2 of 3 of them. Like they kind of whiffed potentially on. I mean, it's just a disaster for Cleveland Farrell and Jonathan Abram so far through 2 years. And Arnette, they're already telling us like he's not good enough to play.
Well, and also there've been a couple things.
Again, these aren't my opinions; these are theirs.
There's a couple things that Vic wrote that, what was the line? Was it Mayock or Gruden that said about Arnette? It was Mayock in January mentioned that Arnette needed to quote unquote apply himself and get stronger in the weight room, right? So they drafted.
One of the questions about Arnette that I had heard, there was some character stuff. Like he wasn't just like Jacobs and Cleveland Farrell, for example, super high character. You never worry about like football character. Dabo Swinney loved him. Like that's just, you don't worry about those guys. So you're taking risk guys in the first round that are like that. Isn't that crazy?
That's not, to me, that risk guys are not high floor guys. Take a risk guy should be super talented at least, right? Potentially worth the upside. The other part of this that Vic Vic wrote a separate piece about, after Derek said he wants to be a Raider for life, he'll only play for the Raiders. Here's something else Tafur wrote. Though Gruden and Mayock won't say it publicly, they want to see how Carr does this season. They want him to lead the team to the playoffs. Yeah, great. He actually just had a really good year. Like, he's not the reason you didn't make the playoffs last year, right? You're making it harder for your quarterback who, could you pivot? Maybe. Like, could you trade him for Aaron Rodgers? Maybe. I don't know. The Packers have to be willing to do a trade with you. Russell's not going anywhere. This is your guy. This is your quarterback right now. And fine. If you had to flip a coin and go one side we get Derek and the other side we get somebody else's random quarterback, we could get Mahomes or we could get Fitzpatrick, I'd say don't do it. Your guy can get you to the playoffs. But you're not helping him. You are not taking advantage of the fact that he's actually kind of on a team-friendly contract, right? You are not helping him. Even that's the wild part to me, John, is they've actually helped him become a better, like he has become a better quarterback, right?
Yeah, 100%. But part of giving a guy $10 million and a $100 million contract, it's like it's not like Derek had never shown out, like he had been good before. He just got him back on the right track. But you get credit, like the whole team answers to you. And when you're the pseudo GM because you're the boss, like that's on you too. The free agent disasters, like that's on you too. So like, yeah, they want Derek to become a playoff winning quarterback. He does leave things on the field that would kind of leave you scratching your head every once in a while. He is way more reliable than the total package of Gruden. Like Derek as a NFL quarterback and Gruden as the boss of the Raiders, who's been more successful these last couple of years, right?
Yeah,
it ain't. Derek's winning that one. If I gave every owner the opportunity, let's say the 15, if we just rank the top 15 teams in the league, or quarterbacks in the league, we wouldn't ask those owners. They have their quarterback. So basically quarterback 16 through 32. If we just did an exercise and we asked 16 teams, the owner, listen, you don't have a quarterback. Clearly, if you don't have a quarterback, maybe you're open with a head coach. There'd probably be some legit young head coaches in those spots. But for the most part, those are probably going to be some of the coaches that will turn over the next couple of years. I said, right now, you could take Gruden or you could take Derek. I'm going to give you one of the two, right? Because having a sweet head coach, like if I gave you Kyle or Trey Lance, I bet most people would choose Kyle, right? Or McVay or Stafford, most people choose McVay. It's not like it's, Mahomes and the Russell Wilsons, but some of these coaches would get fucking chosen. Sean Payton for sure. My point is the Derek, I think, would be 16-0 over Gruden. So it's like they can make these, and I think they think that, but it's like you guys have led a pretty – honestly, I get why Derek says that. He's a pretty loyal guy, but my take was like, Derek, if the Green Bay Packers wanted you, you should pack up your shit and run,
Or
bro.
the Seahawks were interested in that deal?
Yeah. Fucking leave tomorrow and sell your house for probably a 25% markup.
They'd have to buy in Seattle. Milwaukee, though. Yeah, probably get a good place in Milwaukee.